Welcome to Trending Update USA, I'm Stefan. Let me start with a simple but uncomfortable question. Do we only listen when certain voices speak, or when certain names are involved? Because right now, the tennis world is having a conversation that goes far beyond the court. It's not about forehands, rankings, or trophies. It's about privacy, respect, and whose concerns we actually choose to take seriously. Recently, fans called out Boris Becker after he publicly praised Carlos Alcaraz for speaking up about player privacy. But here's the twist. Fans pointed out that players like Coco Gauff and Iga Świątek had already been talking about the same issue for quite some time, and their voices didn't receive the same level of attention. So what exactly happened? In simple terms, Alcaraz recently made comments highlighting how difficult it can be for athletes to maintain privacy in a world where every move is watched, recorded, and shared. His words resonated, and many praised his honesty. Becker was among those who applauded him, calling attention to the importance of protecting players off the court. But almost immediately, fans pushed back. They reminded everyone that Gauff and Swiatek had already spoken openly about these exact struggles. The pressure of constant media exposure, the mental toll of social media, and the lack of personal space that comes with global fame. Yet, when they spoke, the reaction wasn't nearly as loud or as supportive. And that's where this story becomes more than just a tennis debate. Because now we're talking about visibility, recognition, and whether there's a gap in how we listen to athletes, especially across different tours, different genders, and different narratives. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Modern athletes don't just compete. They exist in a 24/7 spotlight. Every practice session, every off day, every personal moment can become content. Social media has blurred the line between public figure and private individual. For someone like Coco Gauff, who rose to global fame as a teenager, that spotlight came early and fast. She didn't just grow as a player in front of the world. She grew as a person under constant observation. That's a level of exposure that very few people truly understand. And Iga Świątek has also been open about the mental challenges that come with the sport, not just competition, but expectation, scrutiny, and the pressure to always present a perfect image. So when fans say, "They spoke about it, you didn't care," it's not just criticism aimed at Becker. It's frustration directed at the broader conversation. It raises a deeper question. Why do some voices get amplified while others are overlooked? Is it about timing? Is it about personality? Or is it something more systemic? Because in sports media, narratives often follow attention. And attention doesn't always follow fairness. There's also the factor of storytelling. When a young, charismatic star like Carlos Alcaraz speaks, the narrative often becomes inspirational. A rising champion sharing wisdom beyond his years. It's compelling, and it spreads quickly. But when players like Gauff or Swiatek discuss similar issues, the framing can sometimes shift. It might be seen as vulnerability, or pressure, or even just another interview quote that fades into the background. And that difference in framing matters. Because it shapes how audiences respond. It shapes whose voices are remembered. And ultimately, it shapes whose concerns lead to real change. Now let's talk about privacy itself, because this isn't just a tennis problem. Athletes today are not just competing against opponents. They're also navigating constant exposure. Cameras are everywhere. Phones are everywhere. And fans, while passionate and supportive, also contribute to that environment. A simple moment, walking through an airport, having dinner, spending time with family, can instantly become public. And for elite athletes, there's often an unspoken expectation to accept that as part of the job. But should it be? That's the question players are starting to ask more openly. Because mental health and performance are deeply connected. When an athlete feels like they're always being watched, always being judged, it creates a kind of pressure that doesn't go away after the match ends. It follows them home. It follows them online. And sometimes, it becomes overwhelming. We've already seen athletes across different sports step back, speak out, or set boundaries. Not because they don't love the game, but because they need space to stay human within it. And that's what makes this conversation so important. When Gauff and Swiatek talk about privacy, they're not complaining. They're highlighting a reality that's becoming more intense with each passing year. And when Alcaraz adds his voice, it reinforces that this isn't an isolated concern. It's a shared experience. So instead of comparing who said it better, or who deserves more credit, maybe the focus should shift. Maybe the real takeaway is that multiple athletes, across tours, across countries, across backgrounds, are all pointing to the same issue. And that should tell us something. It tells us that this isn't about one player. It's about the environment they all operate in. Now let's address the role of social media, because it's impossible to ignore. Platforms have given athletes direct access to fans, which is powerful. They can share their stories, control their narratives, and connect in ways that weren't possible before. But that access comes with a cost. Because the same platforms that allow connection also allow criticism, constant, immediate, and often unfiltered. For a young player scrolling through comments after a tough match, the line between support and negativity can blur quickly. And even positive attention can feel overwhelming when it never stops. So when we talk about privacy today, it's not just about physical space. It's about digital space. It's about the ability to disconnect, to breathe, to exist without being evaluated every second. And that's something every athlete deserves. Coming back to Becker's comments, it's important to say this: praising Alcaraz isn't wrong. Recognizing his perspective is valid. But fans weren't reacting to the praise itself. They were reacting to the imbalance. They were asking why similar voices didn't receive the same spotlight earlier. And that's a fair question. Because progress doesn't just come from speaking, it comes from listening. Listening consistently. Listening equally. And being willing to reflect when we realize we might have overlooked something. This moment, in a way, is a reminder. A reminder that conversations in sports are evolving. Players are no longer just competitors, they're advocates, thinkers, and individuals navigating complex realities. And as audiences, we have a role too. We decide what gets attention. We decide what gets shared. We decide whose voices are amplified. So maybe the next time an athlete speaks about something beyond the game, the question shouldn't be, who said it first? Or, who said it best? Maybe it should be, what are they trying to tell us? Because if multiple players are raising the same concern, it's probably worth paying attention. And not just once, but consistently. In the end, this isn't just about tennis. It's about how we treat public figures in a digital age. It's about empathy. It's about balance. And it's about recognizing that behind every headline, every highlight, and every viral moment, there's a person trying to navigate an extraordinary life under extraordinary pressure. That's something worth thinking about. And maybe, something worth changing. Thanks for watching Trending Update USA. I'm Stefan. And before you go, here are a few questions for you. Do you think athletes today have less privacy than ever before? Should fans and media change how they interact with players online? And do you believe all athletes are given equal attention when they speak about important issues? Let me know your thoughts.